You just knew that when you came to Silver State, you were just going to be miserable for 5 days, and you know, just the wind, the sun, rain, snow we've had before. I mean, you just know that it's just a race that tests, you know, your actual want to race RC cars.
RC Tracks of Las Vegas changed all that. It was the crown jewel of North American RC racing facilities.
It's fantastic. It's by far probably one of the best I've ever been to. I mean, they've gone all out with the driver's stand, pits, track. I mean, it's awesome. I think everyone really thinks it's good.
This place is amazing. I mean, absolutely incredible. For this short amount of time that RC Tracks of Las Vegas has been here, they've done it right.
I think it's really cool. It's a very professional facility.
They put a lot of money, a lot of time, and you can tell they really wanted to show that they're proud of this place. You know, there's a lot of pride in here, which is nice to see. Some RC tracks you don't see that. You know, OCRC, you can tell there's a lot of pride there, and I would say this is on the same level as OCRC, but an outdoor facility. You know, to make your track unique, this is the kind of stuff they got to do.
Like a scene from an apocalyptic end-of-the-world movie, RC Tracks is deserted, a decaying version of its former self. Even in death, RC Tracks is still both charismatic and mystical. Just being here brings memories of past events flooding back. In addition to hosting the World Championships, RC Tracks also held countless standalone races, like the Silver State race. All that is nothing more than a memory now. But what will become of the storied Silver State race? It's been a difficult few years for the hobby industry. In addition to tracks closing, some of the industry's leading companies were sold or have entered financial restructuring. There is yet another sleepless malice that is attacking the industry: social media.
Stay off the internet. 100%. You could be right here in this little screen and just be so fired up about what's going on. And it might even be 1,000 miles away or 2,000 miles away, or Bob said this and John said that, and oh man, you could just go like this and then turn around and just be like, oh man, it's a beautiful day. I'm grateful for my wife, my family, my kids, my dog. I got money to race RC cars. That's it, end of story. Close that thing, done.
With the loss of RC Tracks, the Silver State race could have died right along with it. That certainly is what most of us assumed would have happened to this race. Countless years of racing history could have been wiped out in one fell swoop. In the wake of RC Tracks closing, one of the largest cities in the western United States is once again without an 8th scale track. Joey Christensen, owner-operator of the Dirt Racing, saw an opportunity not only to reboot Silver State, but to bring excitement back to the Las Vegas RC scene. And since Joey doesn't do anything small, he went all out. He managed to secure a location inside of one of the casinos on the outskirts of the world-famous Las Vegas Strip.
They give us basically 3 days. So we had to build 2 tracks in 3 days, which are really big tracks, along with set up all the logistics, the pits, everything you can imagine. So it's been a couple sleepless nights, but it was worth it.
The South Point Hotel and Casino would play host to this edition of the Silver State. With Las Vegas being the entertainment capital of the world, this venue will bring in several thousand visitors over the course of this 4-day race. Even with the short notice, over 500 entries are registered, with racers coming from as far away as Australia. Every major team has sent their factory team drivers as well as their flock of sponsored drivers. Everything about this race has instilled each participant with a sense of renewed excitement about the sport of RC, and the race hasn't even begun yet. The RC Tracks closures left a void, one that would be difficult to fill. But Joey is looking to the future, and his hopes are that the Silver State becomes the new indoor worlds.
Well, it wasn't necessarily that I felt like the race needed to be indoors. It's just that I feel like having it at a casino and a big hotel would just be a really awesome thing. And this was one place that we've been working with that had an equestrian center and plenty of dirt for us to use for what we needed. And so they said it was available, and they've been working with us to try to make sure we can get it. And so that's why.
The dirt crew works hard with this new soil, applying and molding it into a track that they feel will be as visually stunning for the spectators as it is challenging for the drivers to race on. The question is, what will this relatively unknown dirt do? Will this Vegas clay break apart like it has at virtually every other Silver State race?
I know a lot of the pro drivers, they shine when it's bumpy. Like that's the way they, everybody's fast on a smooth track, but Adam Drake, Jared T, but a lot of those guys are like, man, if it gets bumpy, that's their specialty.
By late Wednesday, the final touches are nearing completion. The pipe is hammered into place.
Scalpel! Scalpel!
The banners are hung.
Nurse! Nurse!
Silver State 2018 indoor. It's beautiful. Super big, fun venue. I don't think it gets any better than this. It's pretty fun putting on a Vegas show.
Team managers prep their branded pop-up tents in preparation for the arrival of their star drivers.
This place is pretty rad, dude. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff going on, but it's getting a little smoky in here, so they just kicked all the vents on. So they didn't have the vents on originally, so hopefully that sucks all the stuff out, and we're not all suffering later on in the week from chronic fumage syndrome.
I'd like to see things keep going this direction and make it possibly spectator friendly, and everything's easy, it's convenient, I like that part.
Joey's taking it to the next level, and hopefully this could be an annual event.
It's something that's needed to be done for the hobby for a long time, and if we can keep this going every year, it's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and hopefully make our hobby more mainstream.
I like it, honestly. Guaranteed, we're not going to sweat out there.
It's not going to rain.
It's not 100 degrees in here either.
We don't do much 10 scale or 8 scale racing indoors. They do it, obviously in the Midwest and back east. They have a big following for them, you know what I mean, in all the arenas they run in. So for us, this is kind of new. The guys over there, they're used to it, so we'll see.
Like half the races that we do on the East Coast are all indoor anyway, so
No different for me. If you asked us on Monday morning when we're all catching our red eyes back home how we feel about nitro racing, inside we're probably going to tell you a different story, but on day one it's pretty good.
If there were any negatives about Silver State so far, there were only a couple. The fumes would be the obvious issue, but this is nothing new for indoor nitro races. The other potential issue was the driver's stand. More specifically, the lack of one.
That's a little sketchy. I don't know. It seems like people are sitting in front of the drivers. There's people like drinking beers beside them. So I don't know. I don't know what it'll be like, but I'll wait for the first run.
But neither of these issues were a point of contention for anyone, and the race kicks off with 2 rounds of practice.
I want to welcome everybody to the 2018 Silver State.
The vibe at this installment of the Silver State race was more like a 4-day house party. A really big house, with some racing in between. The track, while still quite loose, did not disappoint. The dirt, which still hasn't come in yet, is still very loose for the seating practice, and it had most everyone chasing setup just a bit. The Silver State track could very well be one of the most challenging Las Vegas tracks these drivers have driven on since the Boulder track. Even though the track was blowing out and would undoubtedly continue to deteriorate, the vibe was overwhelmingly positive.
This is probably on a top 5 already, on a top 5 list of a fun race.
Oh man, we're having the best time ever. Plus, it's just cool to see, you know, you recognize these people over 20 years of doing it, and it's just fun to see them in a new environment.
Would this positive vibe continue, or would someone end up getting shanked come A-Main's time? One of the racers we've been keeping a close eye on over the past few years is CJ Jellin. He is in only his 2nd race as a pro driver.
Going every Sunday and practicing, even now.
Yeah. Is it a lot of work?
No.
It's fun work though, right?
Yeah. I like going and driving at A-Main. It's a good track.
Ask him about his schoolwork. How's he doing in school?
Yeah, how are you doing in school?
Doing good. Graduating 8th grade this year, so high school next year. Looking forward to that.
Graduates.
Got a girlfriend?
Nope. Neither does
We're
time.
working on it.
Yeah.
We're working on it.
We are?
We are. We're gonna get you a 13-year-old girl.
Okay.
No, you know what we're doing? We're gonna get you someone older so she pays for the meals.
Is that your strategy there, Sousa?
See, now you're putting me on the spot. You get a girl, that's it, you're done. You're finished. I'll stay single. The edge will be gone.
CJ, only 14 years old, hasn't quite discovered his edge yet. As a result, he and Kevin have modest hopes for this race.
I would like to see him make the A-Main. I think that would be a good finish for him.
Making the A-Mains and not finishing dead last like I did at DMC. Yeah. Yeah, that's my goal.
Reason you can't be right up there.
Gord Tessman uses CJ's interview as a coaching moment.
But if you're shooting for the bottom of the main, you're going to be below the bottom of the main. You know what I mean? You got to shoot for the top. Don't ever sell yourself short. I know you don't want to be cocky.
No, I don't want.
You need to be positive. Confident.
CJ struggles with the track, spawned Kevin to head over to the Proline tire truck for some recommendations. Daniel has come prepared.
Some of those corners are getting really edgy. Yeah, I mean, I brought like everything in the kitchen sink. I mean, I've got like 4 different compounds, 6 different tread patterns, and we've never raced on something like this. So I didn't, I'm unsure of what was going to happen. I've seen pictures of them racing BMX, and it looked like it was super hard packed, and I think with just the cars and the shock towers and the wheels hitting, like it'll never like fully pack in all the way, So yeah, it's definitely a learning curve for sure, and I'm having some more stuff sent over tonight just to be safe, and we're running on a softer compound than I expected, but yeah, we're gonna make it happen one way or another.
Given that none of these racers have ever run on this surface before, it makes tire selection critical.
I think it's going to get freaking rough. If people are going to say it has character, it's going to get freaking rough. No character. Character is the stupidest thing ever. Talk about character more. How many times do you think people are going to say character this weekend? A lot.
The track's going to blow out. It's already getting a lot of character. The jump faces are getting these character.
It's going to get a little bit more character, and I think it'll be fun.
The track's has some character to it.
It's definitely got character.
I'm sure the character, it's good, it's getting some character now.
Some great character to it.
Round 2 now, track's starting to get a ton of character. Starting to look like a motocross track out there. A lot of character being developed in this track right now.
There's character, man.
All right, let's go ahead and roll now.
Joe's right. The track is freaking rough.
I feel like you put all that effort into making those jump faces and making those jumps and those distances and the triples and all that. If the jump face gets so bumpy you can't even jump the jump anymore, I like the jump. So I don't mind the flat parts and the rollers being rough, but the jump faces, I want to fine tune those that way they can bop, 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 and still, boom, hit that jump. I think it looks cool.
So who was the fastest? In the coveted Nitro Buggy class, it was the rough track specialist Jared Tebow taking the top seed. Would the track conditions continue to give the advantage to Jared? By the time the main events would be run, the conditions were in fact worse than in the Vegas world.
I don't think the Vegas world was even this rough at the end, so I think this is going to get a lot rougher, and it's a lot slower pace, so it's going to be different, I think. The track's constantly changing, you're going to have to keep up on it, watch it, remember where the bumps are, and really just kind of pay attention to the track surface.
Would young drivers like CJ adapt, or would the wily veterans rule the mains? With this year's Silver State being held in an equestrian center complete with an arena, it comes as no surprise that there was a rodeo being held on the same weekend. Even though it was a college rodeo, these young people showcased their sport with pride and really showed how hard it is. Especially this guy. Ouch. Among the entries at this year's Silver State was a former bull rider.
I used to rode bulls professionally for about 18 years.
And not just any bull rider. Robert Bowers was a badass. He won countless PBR events, including the Calgary Stampede, one of the biggest rodeos in the world.
Robert Bowers, round to the right, right in the gate. That boy, come on, keep that windshield wiper moving, moving, moving. That boy, come on, Robert.
There was 3 years I was in the top 10 of the world. It was 1997, 8, and 9. And those were the years that I had my best years and did a lot of rodeoing down south here. And loved every part of it.
But he needs an 84, Donnie, but he ought to just
he wiped that out. Look at that Frank Newton and Robert. It's a good kid.
The day when I was coming down, Gord sent me a picture of the bulls, and he said, "Oh, hey, they brought you some bulls for you to be at home with." And I said, "Oh, dang it, I brought my wrong gear bag." So.
With the rodeo days over for Robert, he transitioned to RC a few years ago.
My brother had bought a monster truck back in the day, and I kind of laughed at him. I said, "That's silly. You don't want to do that." I got out there and played with it a few times and had a lot of fun. Ended up meeting Tessmans in Medicine Hat at the track and just fell in love with it then.
Robert Bowers, the ex-bull rider, you are done.
Injury is something that is synonymous with rodeo. Robert was no exception.
Long list of injuries. We could be here all day if you wanted to go through all of them. Both my ankles, broke my arm 6 times, my collarbone 3 times, my jaw, shattered it, ribs, collapsed the lung once, broke my elbow once, tore my knees up, both my knees a couple times. After having 11 surgeries and to feel as good as I do and be as mobile as I am, I'm pretty happy. I think it came out pretty well.
While Robert has been racing on and off for about 12 years now, he isn't competing in the pro classes. He is running in the 40 plus, as well as intermediate classes here this week. In the first round of qualifying, he puts in 2 good performances in both classes.
So I had a rough one here early. Looked like he was off the track.
But with the competition as close as it is at major events like this one, just one mistake can drop a racer well out of the A main. That's just what has happened to Robert here in the first round.
So track through maybe Hope, Anthony, Westergaard.
Because track time is very limited at major events, with most teams, information is shared, even when it's coming from lower-tier drivers like Robert. While Ty Tessman is one of the most well-known Canadians in the scene, winning a world's title tends to do this, there is an up-and-comer that could very well have a bright future in RC.
My name is Mark Souza. I'm 17 years old. I'm from Everett, Ontario, Canada. Small population, I think like 1,000 people. It's very small. I've been racing for, I think this is my 12th year right now.
The Souzas have been part of the RC scene for quite some time, albeit as background figures. Back then, Derek was the faster of the two brothers. Mark used to be the sidekick, more focused on doing dumb stuff at the track than racing.
Mark has been hearing that for years and years, but I think the tables have turned now because I think if Derek comes back, I don't think he'll hang with Mark anymore.
Tony assumes the difficult role of being pit pop.
Sometimes the Portuguese comes out, you know, and then I have to back off and trying to stay more calm. I think I get a little bit more fired up when my wife is around because she just fires me up.
This week, it's just Tony and Mark here at the Silver State, and they are both committed to their racing program.
It went okay. We were 7th in buggy and somewhere in the B in truck, so truck was a little bit of a struggle, but buggy we're getting good stuff.
What's a good finish for Mark?
Right now it's just make the main, but I feel like I can do really good. I just right now I want to make the main and then see where I go from there.
In the second round of qualifying, race announcer Jimmy Babcock was struggling a bit, or maybe he was just taking a much-deserved break. Either way, Daniel Adams was calling Mark Souza's second run. Souza was definitely stronger in the buggy class. He was on his way to a top 5 run, which was an improvement on his 10th place finish from the first round, until a costly mistake. This would drop him to 8th for the round. In Truggy, Mark is hoping to improve on his 9th place finish from the first round. In the early minutes of the qualifier, he certainly looked to have the speed, but would he have the consistency that was needed? Mike Truey, Tanner Denny, Cole Ogden, and Mark were grouped tightly together. Typically, when competitors are in a tight grouping such as this one, none of them do well. Well, this was not true for Tanner. The rest all suffered with runs outside the A-main grouping. Mark was in 17th.
I don't know, I think he should be a little bit more, how can I say, not being intimidated by the pros behind him when he's in front. And that's like a little bit of the negative. The positive is that he's really come a long way compared to when he used to drive. I think it's because we're doing a lot of big U.S. races, so it's definitely helping him a lot.
Given that the RC scene is more grassroots in Canada, racing at large events in the U.S. is the only way for any Canadian RC racer with a bit of talent to improve. Mega events like Psycho Nitro Blast and Dirt Nitro Challenge, to name just a few, are must-attend events for racers like Mark to gain the required experience. But big events like this can be downright scary for younger racers.
Like when you come up on the driver's stand, and you know there's like a bunch of fast people that you know you can run with, but you try to compete with, and you get scared also at the same time.
The veterans of the industry have always been willing to step up and help out the younger racers.
I would say when I was young, like growing up racing, Matt Francis was someone that I looked up to. I ended up rooming with Matt quite a bit at the electric races when I was younger, and just all around good person, super helpful, and just kind of tried to follow his lead a little bit and do the same myself.
Doing good, but my car got hard to drive, and long story short, I am such through my sway bar.
At the very beginning, I felt like I was a little quicker, and then
Adam has really taken on the role, not only as mentor, but he really is the ambassador of this sport. He's a fan favorite everywhere he goes. With a flock of young and up-and-comers, it's crucial that teams establish a veteran presence.
Yeah, it seems like lately especially there's been a lot more younger kids, and it's a good sign because that tells you that the hobby is going to keep going and growing, and more competition for us, but competition's good.
While Ty and CJ are competitors on the track, off the track, Ty assumed a role of mentor, giving advice whenever and wherever possible.
You can't figure it out, maybe, yeah.
Exactly.
Young CJ's first run in buggy was solid, 4th place. Here in the second round, he is struggling a bit. His car seems edgy and difficult to drive.
Started off pretty good, had no mistakes. Case one of the triples 2 times in a row. Kind of hurt me, but just started doubling and it worked fine. Had no more mistakes until the end, last lap. I might go up in diff fluid, just because, like what Ty said, it's getting high traction out there. Make the car a little bit better.
Truggy was the exact opposite. Round 1 saw CJ way back in the 30th spot. In this second round, he was on fire. Currently, CJ was in the 4th spot. By lap 8, he has picked up his pace and is behind his teammate in the 2nd spot. A bobble on his penultimate lap shuffled him back to 3rd, which is where he would finish. While CJ seems more than content to simply drive around any setup deficiencies, both Gord and Ty are still working with him to make improvements on the handling of his Truggy.
Steering, the rear has nothing to do with steering. The rear just has forward drive. Do you find your car like twitchy or not? Like
so
pretty
like
aggressive?
15, 20, whatever.
It's kind of aggressive, wasn't it?
In a long game,
You can't make this triple either?
I can, I just didn't want to risk it. Had some bad qualifiers, but some really good ones. Last round of buggy, chose the wrong tires. No, it wasn't too good at all, really slick.
Where'd you finish up?
14th for the round, so yeah.
What's your drop?
Yeah, it definitely is a...
Day 1 ends, and CJ is in the show for 2 of the 3 classes entered. Tomorrow will be an important day if he wants to qualify directly into the finals. Silver State started out with a TQ and Truggy, but Ty Tessman is struggling a bit in electric buggy. Even though the track conditions have been rough all week, it wasn't Jared who was dominating the e-buggy class. Instead, it was Ryan Mayfield who would TQ both rounds 1 and 2, locking in his spot atop the grid for Sunday's main event. That being said, he wasn't going out there and destroying everyone. The battles were close.
I think he said 63 thousandths of a second. I think of it just basically having the same speed as him. So we're on pace again now. Again, e-buggy was a little bit of a struggle the first run, so to be on pace again is good.
Rough track specialist Tebow would suffer a technical problem in the first round. His 8th place finish in round 2 would help, but it would be his 3rd place finish in the closing round to give him a respectable starting spot in the final. In Pro Nitro Buggy, Tessman and Mayfield were swapping spots for the entire first run, but it was Mayfield leading the bulk of the heat race. Ty's car looked a bit too easy to drive, and in the early goings of this event, slower was not faster. Would that change by the time the finals came around? Luck might just be on Ty's side this week, however.
Should have TQ'd nitro car, but I pulled off thinking I was done like a dummy. Truggy didn't go so well in the first round. Just wrong setup, bad driver, I don't really know. But just ran second round of truck and got second to Ty. I had one really bad crash, came back and got second. So I'm excited about that. The truck was better for sure. Both the cars have been really good. The track is just getting worse and worse, which I'm good with. You know, like we just talked about a minute ago, you got to really, really work on getting your car good in this condition. And it takes a lot of unique things to make it work.
In round 2, it was more of the same, Tessman versus Mayfield. Ryan would lead all but 3 laps. With buggy qualifying in the books, Ryan and Ty were in a deadlock, each with 2 points. Mayfield, having the faster time, was currently in the TQ spot. In Truggy, Tessman was also getting pressured, this time by Jared Tebow. Jared would take his antiquated Kyosho ride to the top of the leaderboard with a smooth, consistent run.
Good way to start the day. I kind of like 0 points. So yeah, that'd be sweet to get no more points in some buggy classes too.
His 98.8% lap consistency proves that he will be a strong contender for the win in this class.
And I almost threw it away in the last corner, and yeah, just barely took the win. So yeah, my run was pretty just solid. You know, I wasn't the fastest, but just drove clean. Didn't have too much traffic, and just kind of did my own thing.
Down the leaderboard, the competition was tight. It was turning into a game of inches.
Yeah, it was good. Like I said, I mean, I didn't feel like I was like pushing too much. I just was running a pretty comfortable pace, and I was in 4th, start the last lap, and instead of just sticking to my normal line, I, you know, tried to be a little conservative. and it actually bit me. So live and learn. Right now with 2 out of 2, I'm in all 3. But nitro buggy, I need to improve on my first one because the first one wasn't very good. I think I got 15th for the round. So for sure I've got to improve on that in order to stay directly into the final.
Tessman is in a dead heat with Jared and Truggy, and Mayfield and Buggy.
Didn't drive the best, and I think my clutch was slipping a bit. Just couldn't make it over that one triple. And I just kind of had a bit of a brain fart at the end of the straightaway. Lost it a little bit behind pit lane, and then just the timing was off, and I way overshot that. So just a few mistakes, and I'm gonna make some changes to make the truck a little easier to drive on the new. The track is a bit different today. Like it's a lot edgier, I think. So I just take a little bit of steering out, and we'll go to the next round.
Not usually one to pursue TQ, Ty is doing exactly that this week.
I know Ty wants to TQ, but I'd almost rather start second because I think I'm a lot more at ease when he starts second over first, but I think he'll try to TQ the last round, and we're gonna do our best to win this thing. It'd be cool to win the first one ever.
The first day of qualifying was officially at an end. With Mayfield and Tebow gaining a ton of momentum, the pressure falls squarely on Tessman's shoulders to outperform them tomorrow.
Hey, funny time for me to do homework.
It's the final round of qualifying, and things are getting a bit toxic under the X-ray tent.
No, it's true.
Oh, I don't
hands down.
You get beat up.
Oh, game over. Yeah, I know. I knew you were going to say that. And that's what a person that doesn't understand about motocross is the first thing. Oh, what do you mean? What do you mean they're putting their bodies through pain?
Oh, they're just little wee guys.
Those are the toughest guys in the world.
You took a soccer player and a motocross. Put them on the field and said, run. Who can run the longest?
I can't stand soccer because they just touched him. Oh, the guy's almost dead. He's almost dead. He just touched him. The guy is dead.
What's the button pusher?
All joking aside, the mood here in the X-ray tent was very light and fun.
Yeah, I don't know why. It's strange. I'm not really as anxious as normal, and I'm not sure why. Yeah, I prefer it. I wish it was like this all the time.
Maybe this will cause some anxiety. The dirt crew has smoothed off large portions of the track again last night. What would this do to the drivers outside the A main group?
The two cars,
aggressively mediocre.
Roney Helms and Story.
It's a good way to explain
out their drivers, please.
I didn't have much character.
Pretty soon, 20 seconds to go.
Track has a lot less character. They fixed all the character. I thought it was fun last night. Now it's pretty smooth now. I mean, it's going to get rough again. But.
Even though the atmosphere is more relaxed than it usually is at the top level of this sport, it doesn't mean that the pressure isn't on to perform here on the second day of qualifying. Ben Sterling, who talks nearly as funny as the Canadians here, isn't meeting self-imposed expectations.
First race I've ever had indoor nitro buggy, so it's a new concept for me, and a lot of guys have done Neo buggy and Psycho Nitro Blast and Southern Indoor Nationals and stuff, but for me this is totally new, and yeah, I can't wait to do more of it.
In the Nitro class, after 2 rounds, he is in 24th in buggy and 26th in truggy. Not what he had hoped for. The bright spot for him was electric buggy.
Electric buggy, very good. Sitting in 19th or 18th, I think, in electric buggy. The car was awesome. Truggy and nitro buggy both had really bad runs. I think I ran the wrong shock package, so I'll go change that now for both cars and hopefully for a better, cleaner run next round.
Ben rolls out for the final round of qualifying, hoping for something respectable, preferably a high B or low A result. Ben's truggy, now with an improved shock package, was much easier to drive. It showed. He would earn a 20th place finish for the round, his best for the event. Even though he broke in his final buggy run, Ben was still having fun.
Track's awesome fun. It would be good if it was a little bit higher grip, but man, for the facility and stuff we've got here for this race, you can't complain.
TQ is still up for grabs in both nitro classes. Mayfield and Tessman are tied in pro buggy. In pro truggy, Jared Tebow trails Tessman by a single point. Who would enter the final day of this first ever indoor silver state as the Nitro Top qualifiers? Even though Ryan has yet to lose a heat race in e-buggy, it didn't translate here in the last round of Nitro. He was struggling and stuck in the back of the pack.
But the cars are working really well. Just kind of hard to get going out there because trying to learn the bumps, you don't really get a warm-up lap. So it'll be nice to go out there and run a longer main to just kind of get in the groove of things and, you know, kind of learn. And, you know, so as a driver, you can develop with the track as the track's changing. So
With Jared and Ty swapping TQ in the first 2 Truggy rounds, it came as a bit of a surprise to see Tebow struggling. He would finish down in 11th. Ty would settle for second with Ryan Lutz coming out of nowhere to take the TQ. While he struggled in Truggy, Tebow did anything but in buggy. If anyone was struggling, it was Mayfield and Tessman, who were embroiled in a battle for the top spot yesterday. As a consequence of being mid-pack, Mayfield would get tangled up with traffic and would finish 13th. This would stop his march to the top of the leaderboard. Ty, never being higher than 5th in the final heat, didn't seem at all phased.
And my car that time, we did some changes to try to get a little bit better, but I think it was the wrong direction. We're going to go back to our old shock package and tune more on that. And then hopefully that's the ticket. I was happy that the tires were good, but not happy how it finished and how kind of hard my car was to drive.
Nevertheless, Tessman has done what he set out to do yesterday, TQ both Nitro classes. But what will it take to win this inaugural indoor Silver State?
whoever picks the best lines and picks the best car setup is going to be the winner at the end.
Over the years, we have been treated to some stunning Silver State races, but they have all been held outdoors. So how will the indoor edition of this storied race compare to Neo? Will it take over the coveted title of being referred to as the Indoor Worlds?
All right, here we go, here we go, here we go.
It's now Sunday, the final day. Upper mains will be run today.
Drivers ready. Down and quiet. Here we go.
Robert Bowers has qualified into the B mains of both classes he entered. He managed to bump out of the 40-plus B main, and he is headed to the A final.
When I was rodeoing, where Vegas was the #1 spot. That was the finals, the national finals rodeo, and that's where we all wanted to be. And I found a way to get back to the show in Vegas.
He would be starting from the back of the pack. Given the rough track conditions, Robert would be hard-pressed to finish well. However, he has a strategy.
Honestly, it felt like I was driving slow.
You got to race, though.
The buggy just felt so good, and Tessman's helped me set it up just right that it just felt real easy to drive, and it felt like I was going slow, which made it just smooth, and that's all it took.
Starting from the 14th spot, Robert manages to work his way to as high as 6th place. In addition to his wife watching, Robert's friend Ty is also watching.
Going to third. I didn't know he was in this race even. Is he in this race?
Traffic.
It looks rough out there.
Red, white, blue. Martinez here.
He's driving good though.
Oh, Martinez.
I looked at the list afterwards and seen some pretty big names in that old-timers list, and it was pretty cool to see that and to see where I finished. I was happy with it, for sure.
Silver State is now over for Robert. 7th in 40-plus and 21st in the intermediate class. But how did this RC car race compare to the PBR events Robert attended here in Vegas in his rodeo days?
And I'm getting on bulls. It's an adrenaline rush, and it's a scared adrenaline rush. This adrenaline rush is fun and cool, but it's kind of different because it actually lasts longer. You know, like the A main race was a 10-minute race for me. And to get that adrenaline flowing for that 10 full minutes it's a different feeling, but you have to do it for yourself, and nobody else is going to do it for you. So same idea that way.
As for Ben Sterling, he's got his work cut out for him today. Sterling will be starting out the day in both Nitro C mains. Only the top 3 finishers will bump out, so Ben will have to push hard.
Just to back it off with the speed a little bit, just try and be consistent, don't make any mistakes. If I don't feel like I could triple out of the corner, I'll just double single, just lap around and be consistent. And hopefully at the end, the other people will make mistakes and I'll end up better off at the end.
He's doing all right. He's right there in the hunt, so hopefully he stays smooth. We have a good pit stop. He's able to bump. He's got a little bit of work to do, but I think he's 5th or 6th right now and 3 bumps, so he should be able to do it.
After the last cycle of pit stops, Ben is still on the outside looking in. Will his week end with disappointment here in the C main?
Started off 10th in the C main there, and had a pretty good start, pretty clean. Missed all the crashes at the start, got myself into I think 4th or 5th. Then made a mistake myself, went back to 10th I think it was. Then came back to 5th, and I made a pass I think on the last lap there for 4th. So I think I just missed out on the transfer position into the B main, but pretty happy with that. Made some changes to the car with the droop and the ride height and obviously tyre choice. So yeah, positive vibes coming out of this one. Even though I didn't make the transfer, it was just good to get a nice clean running.
Silver State revealed more than a few cracks in Ben's program, at least on loose tracks like this one. He's not the only one that was bummed to be stuck in the lower mains. While qualifying directly into the Nitro Buggy final would have been the optimal path for Adam Drake, he makes the best of it with a solid performance, earning 2nd in his B main and securing a spot in the final, albeit the hard way. The much-anticipated Pro A mains are only a few hours away.
We're just prepping for the mains. We got told there's no A main warm-ups, so we're going to have a couple sets of different compound tires ready to go, and hopefully our setup is right, because we're not going to get a second shot at it, so should be interesting.
With the track being as challenging as it was, this event really showcased how important teamwork at the top level of this sport really is.
We have 4 pro drivers here, and all 4 made it in the main. All the guys work really well together. Everyone worked the setup together, communicated really well, so it was a real team effort, and I think it was really good.
The mechanics and the racers hunkered down and prepped their equipment for the 45-minute long Nitro finals.
So Jeffrey said.
At many events, the electric classes run AAA mains. At Joey's events, they run a single 10-minute main. This makes for an exciting race from tone to tone, which Mayfield would be starting from pole. He would be followed by Tessman in 2nd, and Lutz in 3rd. Ryan crosses the loop for lap number 1 first, followed by Lutz. Tessman got the worst end of a collision with Lutz and was out of the race before registering a single lap. Ty wouldn't be the only casualty of this race. Spencer Rivkin would also DNF this main.
With Ryan Lutz right there in hot pursuit, and then Tanner Denny.
Up front, Lutz has closed the gap to Mayfield. He would eventually make the pass, checking out slightly. The real battle was for 2nd spot. Joe Bornhorst was battling with Mayfield.
Mayfield to the inside, going to take back over the 2nd spot. Coming up next, our 2nd to last race.
Started off pretty clean and just kind of cruised around for a couple laps. Some people flew off the track. I think Tessman broke. And then I ended up in 3rd. And then Mayfield crashed a couple times, and I got around him. And then I messed up a couple times. He got back around me, and then we kind of gapped a little bit at the end.
In the end, Ryan would edge out Joe by just a few seconds.
Yeah, Joe, they were having a good battle. I was kind of trying to watch it a little here and there, and Joe should have had him. Bring it, Joe. But Joe did good. I should have had him. Should have had him. But Mayfield's in his head. That's the problem. Mayfield.
Check outside the back.
While Joe was a bit disappointed not to be higher up on the podium, Ryan Lutz is happy with his performance.
I feel bad about what happened at the beginning. I don't know if it was my fault if I got into Ty or if we just collided with different paths over the triple and then his car didn't keep going. I don't know what broke, but I was a little frustrated from that and upset. I'm like, that's just a bummer. I wanted to run and race and be clean. But after that, my car was amazing. Tires were great, and I was able to take the win. So really good.
He took the win uncontested and leads the team rivalry with Joe.
Yep, I don't want to talk about it.
Joe has another chance for glory in the Pro Truggy final. He makes his way through pre-tech and heads over to the staging area where Jared is giving his Maxima Power Kyosho Truggy one last tune. The first lap goes according to plan for Tessman, but he has Tebow right on his wing. A few laps later, and Ty still hasn't been able to shake Jared. Gord and Zach watch their drivers on the track. First cycle of pit stops are on both their minds. Deeper in the pack, CJ is struggling.
Started out good, and then I started having some mistakes, getting into other drivers, so it dropped me back a lot. And I stayed back there for most of the run. Caught a couple people, and then I'd crash, so really just my own fault. The track was really rough. Finished 8th, so started 4th. First 45-minute main, so it's a little bit different, for sure.
The track deterioration was on an exponential curve now. With the truggies getting thrown around like they were, the buggy final is sure to be a test of survival. Up front, Jared has taken the lead away from Ty. This makes the upcoming pit stop cycle ever so crucial.
Here comes your leader.
While Jared's lap times are nearly half a second off Ty's, he is more consistent and is managing to keep a 5-second gap between himself and his closest competitor. Ty would occasionally close the gap, only to make an error and fall back. With only 11 minutes remaining, Jared was gapping Ty and had built his lead up to nearly 12 seconds.
My strategy was just, not worry about being the fastest, but just try to be smooth. Try to get in a rhythm where I wasn't crashing, and it worked out. I think I maybe got marshaled two times, maybe 3 times.
I was pushing super hard, and the harder I pushed, it was getting better, and then I tried to back it down to try to be more precise. It just was not having it, so I was trying to drive as fast as I could, and it just kept making mistakes, and it just kept biting me. So
towards the end, Ty had cleaned up his driving to suit his aggressive setup a bit better, but it was too late.
I'm loving the track conditions. They're really challenging, and it's kind of just mentality. I was super ready for the main, excited for the track, and yeah, it was an awesome race. Couldn't have really been any better.
Ty and Adam talk about their runs. Given how aggressive his truggy was, Ty is undoubtedly planning some setup changes for the upcoming buggy main.
Just push too hard. He needs to work on his rough track driving, I think, and know where and when to push and where not to. We knew Jared would be a tough competitor in this kind of track. He's really good at that kind of stuff, so something we need to work on. So I was going to do X3. Ted or Danny ran X3, and he was fast at the beginning. So you think if you did him instead? Okay, go get him from Danny.
Surprisingly, Ty isn't worried about Mayfield.
probably Jared, just because he's really good at rough tracks. He did good in truggy, so.
Buggy's going to be even more critical. You know, truck, it was a little strange because you still had to drive pretty aggressive to go fast, but you had to drive easy in certain sections. So I think Buggy's going to be really, really challenging. And whoever can crash the least amount, I think, is going to win that main. So that's going to be my main strategy, is just trying to get my car as comfortable as possible and be able to drive without crashing.
If it's bad in truck, it's going to be horrible in buggy.
It's finally time for the main event, the Pro Nitro Buggy Final. Top 14 drivers of the week roll out and take a few warm-up laps. A bad warm-up can lead to a poor first lap.
Few schedule changes. All right.
The start is clean for the front runners, but Ty errs just as he crosses the loop to register his first lap. Mayfield takes the lead. 45 minutes on this track will seem like an eternity. Tessman keeps pushing, matching Mayfield's lines and speed. 5, and Ty is back in the lead. By lap 6, a group of 5 buggies had broken out from the rest of the pack. Mayfield and Tessman have not been able to gap themselves out, yet. It's still anyone's race. Lap 8 and another lead change. Now the trifecta of Mayfield, Tessman, and Lutz have broken away. As expected, the track conditions were horrific for the buggies. While Jared has always been referred to as a rough track specialist, he has lost touch with the top 3 of Mayfield, Tessman, and Lutz.
So still a 2-second lead for Mayfield over Tessman. Tessman now with 3 seconds.
By the first cycle of pit stops, Lutz has been shuffled out of the top 3. Now it's Jared. Could Tebow double up the nitro classes here at the inaugural Silver State? While Ryan, Ty, and Jared were clocking lap after lap, young CJ Jelling was just trying desperately to stay on the lead lap.
The buggy main was really hard. Track was really rough, so I had to take it really easy. But I was like top 10 most of the race and started going towards the top 5 and kind of just stayed in like 5th and 6th. That's where I kind of just finished out in 5th, so it's definitely good. Definitely a lot better than DNC, so happy.
Well, if we count all 3 this weekend and the one before, it's our 4th A main as a pro, so you got 5th. That's not bad.
It was really hard. It was like Worlds, I would say. That's the best way I can kind of compare it, because it's just, you got to pick your line. If you're in bumps, you're not making the jump, so you got to take it easy for 45 minutes, so it's not easy.
And we're going to be done early, 7:30, a little bit ahead of schedule.
Things were looking pretty good for CJ's teammate Mark, who had just passed him for the 5th spot. Unfortunately, lap 58 would be Souza's last lap of the race.
Really rough start. The track was very gnarly, very demanding, and you had to be very smooth and just be patient. And it took me quite a while to get going, but once I did, we were in a good spot.
While Souza has met his goal of qualifying into the main event, his plan wasn't to DNF and finish where he had started, in the 10th spot.
We were always kind of messing around with our setup to make it better, and I mean, I felt like throughout the day today we really worked really well as a team to come up with something. We all did really well in the main. I would say for the team, it was a really great weekend, and we only look for positives coming out of this race. And for me, just do what I did here and try and make the main at Nationals, and that's my goal, and see what we can do from there.
He wasn't the only driver to DNF on this challenging temporary track.
Off the track in 15. Make sure mechanics stay back if you're not doing.
Another cycle of pit stops and the top 3 remain unchanged.
Dakota, be aware, the 3-way battle.
Ty's pre-race fears of a dominant Tebow are now a reality. Jared is hounding him.
Tebow, right there, giving Mayfield some breathing room now. Tebow right there.
Somehow Ryan Lutz has re-entered the fray and is now included in the battle for second. He gets a bit loose and taps Ty just enough to initiate a durability test. Ty now in 4th would only catch the occasional glimpse of Mayfield, who was checking out. With the intense battle for second raging, Ryan's lead was up to 4 seconds now.
Watch it.
Lutz would drop out of the race with a mechanical issue. This would settle down the battle for second a bit and allow Jared and Ty to work together and close the gap on Mayfield.
The track was really tough, and I don't know, my car was really hard to drive, and I was trying my hardest to hang on to it and just lost touch in the last 10 minutes. It was super fun, man. Me, Ty, and Mayfield was just driving as hard as we could, and giving everything we had, and just lost touch in the last 10 minutes. It was a bummer, but so far for 2018, I mean, my years hasn't been good, so hopefully this will turn it around. Had a great time, and yeah, it was fun.
With Lutz out of the race, Joe Bornhorst would take over 4th for his teammate. This is where he would finish the buggy final.
Got 4th in the nitro buggy. That's my best major finish. Solid 3rd in e-buggy, 5th in truck. So
with 6.5 to go. But as I said,
This intense 45-minute race is in the final third. A string of 35-second laps has allowed Tessman to close in on Mayfield. Has Ty discovered some new lines through the bumps?
Yeah, kind of figured out where where you can't rush, figured out what tires. Yeah, just kind of learned some stuff and tried.
He makes a daring, albeit risky pass over the center triple. He's a bit out of shape when he lands, and a small nudge from Ryan pushes Ty to the loose outer edge. They crash, but Mayfield waits. They race on.
Tessman and Mayfield race together all the time. Both of them courteous racers.
Ty has the lead for all of 10 seconds before giving it up again. With 4 minutes to go, Ty decides that it is time for yet another durability test. With no more than 7 laps remaining, would Ty have enough time to run down Ryan yet again?
So Mayfield went free through, but Tessman, he ain't no slouch either. Mayfield pacing that triple, and just like that, Tessman right back in it. 4 minutes to go, drivers, 4 to go. Final 4 minutes of the 2018 Silver State, and it is a barn burner. Excellent race.
Inside of 4 minutes and the two are nearly nose to tail again. Unlike the first half of the race, Ty was the faster of the two drivers now. It really looked like it was just a matter of time before we would see one final lead change.
Tenths of a second after 41.5 minutes of racing. Tessman gives Mayfield a little nudge. Here they go with the double for Mayfield, a triple for Tessman. 3:15 remaining over that center triple, over the left side double, nose to tail. They're coming up on, it looks like Dellinger with the lead approaching. Left off the track.
Ty narrowly escapes casing the back double. Ryan does something far worse. He flips over. With 3 minutes to go, it's Tessman. This time, he would not cough up the lead. Ty would be the winner of the inaugural indoor Silver State race.
Today didn't start off super good. Truggy struggled a little bit. E-Buggy had a really rough start and just broke on the first lap. But to come back and win Buggy is pretty happy with it. My car ran flawlessly the whole time. This track is super gnarly. It's probably the hardest 45 minutes I've ever run. My eyes hurt, my head hurts, like everything just, it's draining for sure. But couldn't be happier to win.
I actually was more worried about Jared, honestly, just because he's a good rough track driver, but Mayfield surprised me. I know he's fast, but his E-Buggy run, his car didn't look so good, so I was confident, more confident. I was worried more about Jared, honestly, but obviously Mayfield had something up his sleeve and made us work very, very hard for it. He drove amazing, Ty drove amazing, Jared drove amazing. For this kind of track, for those guys to go around with that few of crashes, that was an amazing run for all three of them.
You know, I thought I drove well. I thought my car worked really well. I thought my whole package was good. Fuel mileage was good. Yeah, just one untimely bump in the road and cost me eventually the win. So it is what it is. We go racing again next week and just keep it going.
That was a crazy 45-minute race, dude. I don't know if I've quite seen one that nuts. And then I guess you don't really realize it until you walk the track, and I just went and took some banners down, and man, there is a lot of holes out there. So it's pretty gnarly and pretty high grip, so that combination together is usually not so great. But yeah, in the end, I was able to pull it out, man. It was close, but 45 minutes of chaos in that one. So happy, man. Ready to go home.
With this being another 8th scale World's year, any win gives these drivers much needed momentum. But the season is long, and there are more than a few stops for this traveling circus before the Worlds in Perth, Australia.
Well, it's a long, tiring week. Long, tiring week. My voice is gone, my eyes are shot, got a headache, I'm ready to go home, see my family and my friends. But I can't wait for the next one. Hopefully everybody can join us next year for the 2019 version of the Indoor Silver State.
Jimmy isn't the only one looking ahead to the next race. For most, this will be the Roar Nationals in Florida.
Racing 45 minutes, a whole new ball game under pressure. At home, you just cruise around. Here, you have to go. Great job. See you in Nats. Yep.
Ty, Jared, and Ryan Lutz now hold Silver State titles. But who holds the title of the Indoor Worlds? A title long held by the Neo race. But it appears these lights may have been switched off for the last time. Will the Neo return to Harper Adams once again, or is the new outdoor home a permanent one? Or is the situation much worse for the Neo? Will it join races like the Cactus Classic and become part of RC history? As for Silver State, with Vegas as its home and Joey Christensen at the helm, Silver State is in good hands.
Having an idea and trying to make it happen, and then have it see come to fruition, and then have all these people show up that I didn't think would show up, and then have them pat you on the back and say thanks for doing it, and they had fun. That's the highlight.
The highlight for us was how fun this race was and how it was exactly what this industry needed. Indoor Worlds or not, the Silver State race has officially been reborn.